This is On the Sidelines with Box 13.
All right, welcome back into another episode of the On the Sidelines podcast. I'm your host, Ethan McReynolds, here with my partner in crime, as always, D-Jack, Dante Jackson. And our special guest for today, not only is he here for the first time on the podcast, but it's also his birthday.
Yay.
Anders Hirst. Happy birthday. You're
Happy
here
birthday.
Versus being literally anywhere else.
Hey, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, we really appreciate it. I mean, you do it all. I'm gonna list it off. He's a producer for the Ian Furness Show on 93.3 KFR FM. Also, the Sounders beat writer for Emerald City Spectrum, new business that Corbin Smith created not too long ago. And he's also now he's with the Locked On Mariners podcast, doing postcasts after every single Mariners game. So you can check him out there. We're really excited to have you on just because of your wealth of sports knowledge across all these different topics that we want to talk about today. There's a lot going on. We're talking new Kraken head coach Lane Lambert. Anders is going to give his insight on the new hire. A lot going on with the Sounders. They're protesting the Club World Cup earnings. We're going to talk about that, but we start with the Seattle Mariners.
Yes.
And the big dumper in Cal Raleigh, who has just been on an absolute tear.
Yes.
I mean, he could win the MVP. He's on pace for the greatest season statistically by a catcher ever. Anders, what has impressed you the most about Cal Raleigh?
Well, I'm going to throw it back at you with a question myself.
For sure.
I can't tell what's more impressive to me or what's more of a big accomplishment for him at this point in the season. The fact that he might have the best catching season that we've ever seen in MLB by any player, or the fact that he might be both offensively and defensively in terms of value, the best Mariner season that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
So, if either one of those things happen, it just explains how special he's been.
What would be more special to you, D-Jack?
The fact that he's in the MVP running.
There you go.
We all understand that Aaron Judge, I mean, he's out of this world, especially with the batting average, but the toll that the position of a catcher takes on a player, and he's on pace to play in 162 every game, which is unheard of. So the durability with the bat, that's what's impressive to me.
Well, and yeah, so you mentioned he has appeared in every single game so far this season. He has started in every game but one. In that one singular game, he came off the bench, pinch hit, and ended up having the game-winning hit. So, I mean, Cal Raleigh has seriously had zero time off. He's on pace to hit 64 home runs so far this season, over a 162 game pace. 48 is the most by a catcher. Yeah. He would eclipse that by 16 home runs. There's only 8 catchers in MLB history that have ever hit 40 home runs. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely unheard of, and he's one of the most valuable players in all of baseball.
Yeah. I would like to personally thank the New York Yankees for inventing the torpedo bat so that Cal Raleigh can break Aaron Judge's single season season home run record for the AL. So yeah, thanks Yankees. Really appreciate that.
but Anders,
you're the only person that would thank the Yankees around here.
Yeah, you're right.
Trust me. We talked about it last week.
Yeah.
But Anders, you're watching this team every single day, talking about them after the game every single game. I mean, is it just rinse and repeat with just all this praise? I mean, 6 home runs in this last 6 games for Cal Raleigh.
I mean, it gets really, really hard to keep coming up with new ways to talk about him and just how special he's been. Thankfully, it's not just Cal Raleigh for all of our postcasts. We get to talk about some bullpen blunders here and there like they did this past week. So hopefully that doesn't come through this coming series against the Orioles. But he's so special, man. And it's not just what he brings on the field. It's everything that he does outside of the fact that he just signed the extension here. He got rid of Scott Boras so he could stay with the Mariners, be here long term. He's not only a vocal leader in the clubhouse, but there's multiple stories of pitchers that have gone to him whenever they need something.
Logan Evans, he had a long conversation with him the other week.
And it wasn't even his start day. He's already prepared to have this start. I think it was in Houston at that time, and they were preparing for when they came back and faced the Nationals, I want to say.
Yep.
So it was just the amount of work he does, not just on the field. His stats are incredible, but everything he does outside of it, he's a Seattle legend, man.
Yes, and let me expound on that, Andy, because it's funny that you said that, because that's what I love about him, is his demeanor.
Yeah.
You know, the way he carries himself, the way he leads this team. He's a quiet leader, but his bat is loud. So he walks the walk, he talks the talk, and he backs it up.
Yeah.
And, I hate to talk about Julio because we all have our expectations of him, but it's Cal Raleigh that ended up rising to the top, which is funny about this team. And the deal that the Mariners, I'm going to pound the table about it. I keep talking about it every week. The deal that the Mariners signed Cal Raleigh, too, at the beginning of this season was a masterful stroke. It was a stroke of genius. It's a skill right now. If you look at that deal and look at the production of Cal Raleigh, it's an absolute steal. Great job, Mariners organization.
And you've seen so many times when people sign that big extension that they're like, okay, they kind of relax a little bit. Cal Raleigh's done the absolute opposite. He's taken it up a level. He's gone into the MVP conversation. He has an over 1,000 OPS at this point. He's on pace to have the most home runs by a catcher ever, maybe even the most home runs in AL history ever. It's just crazy. And that's kind of, as D-Jack was talking about, that's how he takes his responsibility in with his team. He knows that he signed the big deal, but that doesn't mean everything's done now. He needs to go out and prove it and make sure that he does what he needs to do.
Well, you mentioned the value of the contract. You could justify paying him twice as much as he signed just at the beginning of this season. It's absolutely absurd. And you mentioned he's OPSing over 1,000. He's doing that from both sides of the plate. I think that's the craziest part about all of this. He's hitting 296 from the right side with 8 home runs. From the left side, he's on base percentage is almost 400. He's got 15 home runs. He's got about half as many at bats from the right side as the left side. The home run rate, I mean, it's almost identical. It's not like you're getting a drop off from one side of the plate, which is normally what you see from switch hitters, let alone catchers that also need to focus on hitting from both sides of the plate. It's absolutely absurd. The other thing that I wanted to mention is this home run that he hit against the Twins on Saturday. And if you're listening to the audio, apologies, but go back and watch the highlights from the game on Saturday against the Twins. Cal Raleigh takes this fastball up at his eyes, gets on top of it somehow, launches it, not just it's not a home run just over the short porch in right field at Yankee Stadium. He sends this 15 rows deep at T-Mobile Park. By the way, that was the day that rained this week amidst all the warm weather we've had in Seattle. On a cool day in T-Mobile Park, Cal Raleigh's taking this pitch 15 rows deep at T-Mobile Park. I mean, he's doing stuff that I didn't think was humanly possible to do.
And look at the eyes. The eyes are just I mean, bug eye. Just
how big is that ball that he's seeing right now?
And is it any other better, thing to see than a sweet swing and putting it over the fence? And right there, that was just a thing of beauty. The way he caught up to that ball, it was eyes high, and he put it, back there and hit it here, Parker, wherever you want to call it. He put it back there. So great swing by Cal Raleigh, and he's doing a great job right now.
Yeah, and
what more can you say about it?
It's just the definition of a guy who's locked in, right?
Yes.
What I love about that is if you look at the highlights from the following game, I think it was Sunday, he took a pitch that was like a foot below the zone out. So you can't pitch to him right now. And it's crazy because we literally went up against someone who kind of gave that same vibe in Aaron Judge earlier this season, where it was like anything you threw to him, it felt like he could hit. It's fun to have one of those guys on our team now. It's fun to be on that side of it, you know what I mean? Like normally it's like, God, don't pitch to him. It was the Yordan Alvarez for a while, and then it was Aaron Judge, and now it feels like, oh man, now that guy's on our team, so we get to reap the benefits of that a little bit.
Do you think there's any realistic chance that he can beat Aaron Judge out for the MVP? I think right now, I checked a couple of days ago, our sports director Aaron Levine tweeted out, he's like still at 100 to 1 to win MVP. I mean, it is a long shot odds, but do you think there's any realistic shot that he can win MVP?
I think there is. It just takes a little bit of Aaron Judge slipping just a little bit. And don't get me wrong, Aaron Judge is a special player, special hitter. But what Cal does defensively, and I think most baseball writers will take this into consideration. Like, he gives value on both sides of the field more than Aaron Judge does. Now, I understand, like, Aaron Judge, Yankees, big number 99, like, the biggest brand in all of baseball, arguably all of sports, It's just what it is, and, like, that gives him an edge just by having that factor. But what Cal Raleigh's doing right now should not be overlooked, and I still think that there's a chance that he can win MVP. I think those odds are a little long for me.
I'm not so sure about that. And now I think he can earn it and he would deserve it. But you're talking about the Yankees here, and Aaron Judge is hitting almost 400, and he's right there with Cal Raleigh.
And the ballpark that he plays in.
And with that being said, you have to do it more than 1 year, especially against an Aaron Judge. Like, Cal Raleigh would have to have this year and then the same year next year, and then I think he would have a chance to win it. You have to have that name recognition. Right now, I don't think the world knows who Cal Raleigh is, but they're going to know real soon.
Well, Jeff Passan mentioned on sports radio, national reporters are not doing their job if they are not following what Cal Raleigh is doing right now, and he has absolutely earn that. It's just wild to me that he's in the same conversation as Aaron Judge. 6'7" anomaly doing what he's doing. Yeah, with a chance, he has a chance to hit 400 over this entire season. What was it, Ted Williams, the last person to do that? And, I mean, Cal Raleigh of your Seattle Mariners is in that same conversation. Anders, I want to broaden it out a little bit.
Sure.
The Mariners went 13-14 in the month of May, despite Cal Raleigh's just absolutely torrid stretch that he's on this entire season he's had so far. What direction are they headed, and do you think they can weather the storm a little bit while they're waiting for a George Kirby to find his form, waiting for Logan Gilbert to come back, Bryce Miller maybe to start pitching a little bit better?
Well, we see George Kirby tonight, and depending on when you watch this or listen to us, you'll find out how that goes.
Yes.
But hopefully it's his third start since coming back from injury. This is kind of the one where I waver. The first couple I'm willing to give him a little bit of room. Like, okay, first 2 starts of the season, coming off an injury, like it's really just his extended spring training. This is the one where I'm starting to really judge him to see if this is the real George Kirby. Bryce Miller looks iffy to me. That's a big question to me, whether he's going to be able to be good for the rest of the season. Maybe they have to shut him down. I mean, they mentioned a couple times that he's just going to have to play through some pain right now, and he doesn't look completely right to me. The good news is you have a Logan Evans, you have an Emerson Hancock to lean on if you need to, if it comes to that situation. But the bigger issue, I think, with Seattle is the fact that Jorge Polanco is, he had one of the best months of April that we've ever seen here in Seattle, and then he's gone down to what he was last year and then some. He literally had one of the worst months in Mariner history offensively, and he's only a DH against right-handed pitchers. He can't swing the bat from the right-hand side against lefties, so he's just not bringing a ton of value to you right now, and Cal Raleigh cannot do this all on his own. So I really need to see a bounce back from Jorge if I'm going to believe that this offense is better than what they have been the last couple of years. I trust the pitching staff to figure themselves out.
Well, and Jorge's hidden in the 2-hole every single day.
Yeah.
I mean, I love what Dan has brought vibes-wise, but there are definitely some decisions that he's been making this season that sort of make you question, what the process is with it, and maybe moving Polanco down, taking some pressure off of him. Maybe throwing him on the IL. I thought that would sort of be the move when they brought Cole Young up, would be give Jorge Polanco a little bit of a spell to get healthy, because he's very clearly not fully healthy.
And you talk about that health. I think Dan Bylsma is bringing kind of old school mentality to managing because he's sticking with his veterans. And I think that's a problem right now because Polanco is clearly hurt. And when Bryce Miller was hurt, you kept rolling him out there. And I understand sticking with your veterans and playing the players that got you there, but sometimes you have to pull the plug on the player. You got to stop the player because they're going to take the ball every time. Now, why not sit with Bryce Miller or Polanco and bring up a Cole Young like you did, bring up a Harry Ford like we'll talk about later, let Logan Evans have that position. He was doing quite well along with an Emerson Hancock. Why not lean on the younger players who have shown up and who have produced, let these veterans go ahead and heal up and then come back full strength. And that's it. That's what the problem I have with Dan Bylsma with his old school mentality as far as sticking with those players a little bit too long.
Well, and you mentioned Harry Ford. Let's talk about him because there are players like Harry Ford that are at the AAA level knocking on the door to help a team that all of a sudden really needs some offensive production.
Yes,
I mean, let me pull
Yes, we do.
let me pull up some of Harry's numbers right now. I mean, he's absolutely crushing the ball right now. He's hitting .317 on the year, OPSing over 900. Just in the month of May, if I can find, he's in .411. He's in over 400 in the month of May, OPSing over 1100. I mean,
you're telling me that can't be better than Mitch Garver at the Major League level?
Exactly. So I guess if anybody other than Cal Raleigh is catching for the Seattle Mariners, Harry Ford is in the major leagues no matter what, I feel like. I think it's a little bit complicated. Adam Jude wrote a great article about it in the Seattle Times about their plan for Harry Ford and what they want to do. They tried him last year at AA in left field, and it did not really stick. He only played like 8 games there, a handful of games. They want him to be a catcher. He says, I am a catcher. That is a big part of his identity. Anders, what would you do with a Harry Ford? Do you use him as trade bait? I feel like he can help this team, but in what capacity?
Yeah, I think you at least have to try him out at the Major League level for a little bit because he can't be giving you any less. And I realize the jump up from AAA to the Major Leagues is massive. And there's no way you can expect him to do what he's doing at the AAA level in the Major Leagues. But it's hard for me to believe he'd be any worse than what Mitch Garver's bringing you right now. Now, I realize not just offensively what the expectations from AAA to MLB can be sometimes lofty, but defensively as well, especially as a catcher. And Cal's so good defensively that you noticed kind of the little differences between him and Mitch Garver when he's behind the plate. But I've heard from multiple people that there's even a bigger gap between Mitch Garver and Harry Ford in terms of defensively. I'm not saying Harry Ford's a bad defensive catcher. He just has to learn that a little bit. I think, and that's the main reason why he's not up here now. But I still think, and all comes down to money, because Mitch Garver's owed $12 million this year or something along those lines. If they're willing to part ways with that, I think Harry Ford would be up here now. He would be your backup catcher, DHing when he's not. Especially against left-handed pitching when Polanco can't, and that's where this all fits in together. If Polanco goes on the IL, I think you bring Harry Ford up. He becomes your part-time DH, part-time catcher. It gives Cal a little bit more of a rest from behind the plate, so he can go for the stretch run. So I just think it's a pretty natural transition to go from what you're doing now with Cal and Mitch Garver and Jorge to slide Jorge to the IL, make sure he's right, have him be good to go for a little bit later this year, and I just think you can move on from Mitch Garver.
See, this is where ignorance is bliss, because I'm not a baseball guy. I would have handed Harry Ford a first base glove 3 months ago and put him there.
Yeah.
We clearly have a hole there. What are we thinking about? What is the problem? Give that man a first base glove and bring him up. And I talked about this at the beginning, before the season even started, as far as young players and holding them back and worried about service time and worried about, they're not going to get enough at-bats. If they're showing they're good enough, bring them up, be that type of organization. Harry Ford needs a first base glove right now. He'll be in first base tomorrow. He can learn on the job. We just want that bat. So, what's the problem with that, Andrew? I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong.
This team has holes. They have. It's not like they have players at every position where it's like, where are you going to put this guy?
Right.
There's so many places you could put him. And honestly, I've heard people mention that same thing.
First base
put him
is
at
a
first
natural
base.
progression from a catcher.
It is.
The next spot is not left field.
Yeah.
It's first base.
But
and we have a huge hole there.
And even left field, because I don't think Randy's been great defensively. I love myself some Randy Arozarena, but put him at DH.
Hey, hold up. You're going too far. That's my guy now.
No, I love Randy. No, I love Randy. I love his bat. I love his energy. He brings the team.
Defensively, there's some room
There's
to
a gap,
grow.
right?
Yeah.
So I love it. No, but if Harry Ford gives you more defensively in left field, that's an option. Then you still have Randy in the lineup at DH. There's so many places you could fit him in. I think he needs to be on the team.
Well, and the other side of this is, do you try to have Harry Ford help you this year, or do you sort of bait him in a trade to get another position player? Ryan O'Hearn from the Orioles linked by Jeff Passan today.
Yep.
And catcher is probably the position where he's going to have the most value to another team because of what we're seeing with Cal Raleigh. Offensive production from the catcher position is something that not many teams have, and the Mariners have that in abundance. Suddenly, it's pretty crazy. But Anders, I want to go back. I mean, if you bring Harry Ford up in that backup catcher position, if you bring a guy up that young, he's 23.
23. Check that.
You bring a guy up that's that young, like a Cole Young.
22, actually, sorry.
22.
Yeah.
You want them to play. You
you
need
do.
to get them at-bats. Is there a path to at-bats having him behind Cal Raleigh? Or would a roster construction, say Jorge Polanco does get right, and that now you've got Jorge Polanco, Cal Raleigh, and Harry Ford. Is there a path to a regular amount of at-bats?
If all of those things are true, not as much as you would like for a 22-year-old that you're looking to develop. The other thing is, when you're talking about trade bait, if you bring him up and he struggles, that instantly drops his value.
Yes.
Instantly. So if you are looking to trade him, which at this point he probably is the Mariners' biggest trade piece that they would be likely to move on from. I'm not saying they will, but if he comes up and isn't like everything that has been advertised, which is, it happens all the time in baseball. You see these guys come up and, they struggle for a little bit, they figure themselves out, but that drops your value for him right away. And we all know how these guys like to look at value and winning trades and all that stuff. So, but no, to answer your question, I think the most likely thing, if you are to bring him up, is to move Polanco to the IL because he needs some time to get right. if that ends up all working itself out, then you do what D-Jack said, like, hey, throw on a first baseman glove. Let's see what goes on. Like,
Isn't that easy?
I mean, no, it's not. Is the answer to that question.
So.
But you need some extra time in AAA. And get some reps. Yeah.
But I still think if there's any position to do that, it is first base.
Right.
We've seen poor first basemen defensively here a lot, and it doesn't. I mean, yes, it affects the team, but it's not as much as being poor in other positions. If he's good enough with the bat, you can definitely justify it.
You can live with it.
Yes.
And you know what? We just talked the whole 20 minutes on the Mariners, and we didn't mention one name. Julio.
Yeah.
I mean, he's missing. Milk carton. Like, where is he? Now, are you a Julio apologist that says
100%
he has one of these best starts in his career and this and that? Come on, like Cal Raleigh has lapped the guy that we thought was a linchpin, was going to be a pillar for the Mariners organization for the next 10 years. He doesn't look like that guy right now, Anders. I'm going to just call it like I see it. And I love Julio. I think he'll be a good player. But maybe we were too fast on the great player superstar tag on Julio Rodriguez.
I think it's completely fair to question whether he will be that superstar player at this point. We have to remember a couple things, though. Number one, he's still only 24 years old.
There we go. That's the first apologist right
there. You'll get
he's
the whole.
Still young.
You'll get the whole checklist here.
All right, that's one.
Number two,
okay.
His value defensively.
Okay.
He is the best, debatably with PCA in Chicago, like the best defensive center fielder in the game. And you can't just throw that out. Like that he's gotten better at that every single year that he's been in the majors. Now, if you look at his offensive statistics, which I think this team needs more, and they need more of that bat, which I totally understand. He's gone down offensively his entire 4-year career here. So there is reason for a little bit of concern. But he brings value in so many other parts of the game. If you just look at, I believe it was Sunday's game against the Twins, bottom of the 9th inning, who hit your guy hit the game-winning hit, right? Randy Arozarena.
Yes.
Do you remember how that started? Julio Rodriguez legs out an infield single, then steals second base. They hit a throwing error, which allows him to take third base. Without Julio's speed, without his instincts on the base paths, Mariners don't win that game. That allows Randy Arozarena, that brings the infield in, that allows him to hit the game-winning single, and he scores the run. So he may not be having the moments that we saw him have his rookie and second year, and he definitely has dropped off a little bit offensively, but he's still bringing value to this team in more ways than one, and he's still an above-average offensive player. And I agree. I want to see more than above-average offensive player for Julio Rodriguez. That's totally fair, but we shouldn't diminish his value. He's been one of the best center fielders. You could argue all around he's the best center fielder in the game of baseball right now. And I understand that we expected more with the face of the franchise, with how much the Mariners kind of shove him down our throats a little bit. I understand all that. I really, really do. But I still believe a hot streak is coming. I believe that he's going to be the guy, and there are signs that that's coming too. He's struck out way less this year.
Yes.
He's walked way more. I just want to see a little bit more power. I want to see a little more power, and I think that's coming. It's just I understand the frustrations there are with Julio, but we have to temper our expectations a little bit.
Well, we're going to have more on Julio later, so we can dive more into that.
Yep.
I do want to get into the Kraken.
Sure,
and
let's do it.
They have a new head coach, and we didn't lead with them today. But I feel like that's sort of the feeling on the Kraken right now. Me and D-Jack were talking. They're sort of like an afterthought. And with this hire, it's a big deal. Like, there's a new head coach in Seattle, but at a major sports team. But it just doesn't have that aura around it. Anders, what do you make of them hire? Well, really quick, they hired Lane Lambert. Let's give you the gist in case you're living under a rock or something. He was an assistant coach with the Toronto Maple Leafs last season. This is his second head coaching gig. His first was with the New York Islanders. His one full season there, made the playoffs, exited in the first round. Second season was fired mid-season, but had a pretty good record in New York, all things considered. Defense, from what I'm reading, is his big calling card, sort of akin to Dave Haxtell.
Yeah, and that was kind of my big takeaway, was this seems like a reversion back to the Dave Haxtell ways. Now, there are aspects of Lane Lambert, from what I've heard, that he is different than Dave Haxtell in. But I just think an overall style, when you had Dave Haxtell, it was, okay, we're going to be a defensive first team. We're going to, just kind of clog up the middle of the zone a lot, help our offensively challenged team be able to win close and low-scoring games, which that's how they got to the playoffs in 2023. And it worked, but you could tell there was a ceiling with Dave Haxtell, and that's what made them move on to Dan Bylsma. You were hoping to get something more offensively. I think the biggest hole in Dave Haxtell's game was developing young players, which is kind of your core right now. So they moved to Dan Bylsma, who that is his calling card, developing young players, and that's why I think you saw the breakout from Shane Wright this year. That's why you saw the Riker Evans. Matty Beniers took a step back, shall I say, to what he was in his rookie year. But I think there was definitely some holes defensively with Dan Bylsma, and it seems to me with Lane Lambert, you're going back to the Dave Haxtell style of play, a little bit slower. I shouldn't say slower. Defensive oriented is like the first thing you're thinking of. But he also has a good track record of developing those younger players. So maybe a kind of mixed best of both worlds situation here. I still have concerns about the goal scoring and how he's going to be able to get more out of a team that at this point in time, we still have to have free agency and all that.
Right.
At this point in time, doesn't have the top end talent that a lot of other teams do that are making these playoff runs. But I do think that it's a reversion back to the Dave Haxtell style of play, but hopefully with a little more youth development orientation.
Now they say the Kraken has like over $20 million in cap space.
Yep.
You just talked about those holes on the team. What do you foresee happening with that money? I mean, do they go get a star, a frontline player, or do they, pick up a bunch of just guys?
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
I still think that last year's offseason can be very underrated. I am a huge Brandon Montour fan. I think he's one of the best two-way defensemen in the game. I still think Vince Dunn is up there. He had a little bit of an injury the first part of the season. Getting Jordan Eberle back for most of the season will be huge for the Kraken. They still need a star. They need an offensive star. The number one guy on my wish list, unfortunately, is off the board already, and Mikko Rantanen, because he got traded to Dallas, then signed the extension. He would have been a free agent that I would have loved here. The next one that everyone's pointing to is Mitch Marner out of Toronto. I have concerns, not necessarily that he's not the right player, but I call this the hockey superstar conundrum, where there are certain players that can put up points with great players around them, and then there's an even smaller group of players that can make everyone else around them better players, and that's one of the players that the Kraken need. I just don't think that's going to come in free agency. I think because of the draft picks they picked up in the late season trades with Yanni Gourde, Oliver Bjorkstrand, and such, they're going to look to trade. They're going to look to trade those draft picks and hopefully get a guy. I think they're going to be aggressive in free agency this year, and just in the offseason in general. And I think it's going to come via trade instead of via signing a big free agent.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, with the head coach, there's obviously still a lot to happen in the offseason. But with the head coach, I mean, It feels like for as long as they waited, it was over a month after they fired Dan Bylsma before they hired Lane Lambert. There were rumors that they wanted Rick Tocchet, didn't get him. There were rumors there was a deal that fell apart with Mitch Love, didn't get him. It seems like Lane Lambert was not close to their first choice. And I know there weren't a lot of sexy names out there on the market. A lot of people have been talking about that. But when they made the decision to fire Dan Bylsma, is there any feeling from you, Andrew, that maybe there wasn't a plan past him? It was just like, we failed this season. Somebody's head needs to go. I
don't know about somebody's head needs to go, but I know for a fact they think that they had a better team than they showed on the ice this season. And that's the first thing you think of when you say that phrase is, okay, the coaching. That's the thing that kind of makes everything tick. Yeah. And there were individual performances that you were happy with, but you still expect more from the team that the front office believes that they put together on the ice. So I think they knew they needed to make a change, and maybe there wasn't a plan. I can't know for sure. We're not in those meetings, obviously. Maybe they had a couple ideas of where they wanted to go. It seems like those three names, Rick Tocchet, Mitch Love, and then the one they landed on, Lane Lambert, were there okay, we're kind of trying to decide between these three. It's not to say that I think they got the worst of those three names. I don't even think that's necessarily the case, because Rick Tocchet, he's the biggest name out of those three. But what happened last year in Vancouver cannot be unalarming, because they were more talented than the Kraken were, and they arguably had a worse season just overall in terms of the expectation gap. Their chemistry was way off with EP40 and JT Miller and then they ended up having to trade one of their superstars just basically for kind of nothing. There's a lot of red flags that went into that one, so I'm not saying that they necessarily got the worst case scenario. I probably would have preferred someone like Mitch Love, but I'm open-minded to think that someone like Lane Lambert can't come in and put this team back to the playoffs that they saw a couple years ago.
You talked about Dan Bylsma and, his relationship with the younger players and developing them. Did he get a fair chance? Because he had the same rash of injuries with Eberle being out and a couple other frontline players being out that the front office did. Now, they're talking out of both sides of their neck. The front office keeps their jobs because, this team didn't perform because of the injuries, but you let go a coach because the team didn't perform.
Yeah.
Well, you thought you put together a good team, but half of them hurt. So, I mean, what is it with this organization?
And you can even take it a step further in saying, like, you think you underperformed, yet the general manager is getting a promotion to the president.
Exactly.
So there's a kind of PR gap.
It's
shall
a disconnect
I say.
there.
There is a disconnect.
Well,
Yeah.
and somebody that was at the presser, recently told me it was like, they're firing Bylsma, but then you're at that presser, and it sort of felt like a celebration.
Yeah.
Why are we celebrating after a failure of a season? We just fired our head coach.
Yeah.
We're going to have 3 head coaches on the payroll this coming season. But we get promotions to the general manager and assistant general manager. Yeah. It doesn't really add up to me, and I feel like around the league the optics could be similar. Maybe I don't know. What do you think about that?
I agree with you. First
and
of all,
then you go and hire Dave Hextall Light.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That's what I call it.
No, and I got the same vibes too. I think basically what happened was, they knew they underachieved last year. They expected better from the team they put together. The offseason leading into last year, so the 2024 offseason, that was the most aggressive that they have been in their franchise, right? They signed Chandler Stevenson. They signed Brandon Montour to big extensions.
Mm-hmm.
And those two guys performed pretty well, especially Brandon Montour. I'm still a huge fan of his. But then also you have to remember the NHL coaching carousel is quicker than any other league. Yes. If you look at when Dave Hextall got fired in after year three, he was like the second longest tenured head coach in the NHL. Right. So it tells you how quickly these guys just move on from their coaches. Okay. So I'm not saying that I disagree with you in terms of the perception and the optics around what this team is doing and where they feel like the problems are, but it's just a different scope than we're used to maybe watching NBA or watching NFL and MLB and all these things where these coaches are given longer leashes to kind of make their product work.
Now let's go back to the hire of Mitch Love.
Yeah.
And they said they were deep in talks with Mitch Love. I thought he would be the Kraken's next coach, but rumors have it that the Kraken wanted Jessica Campbell to be on whoever they hired as the coach staff. Have you heard anything about that?
I have not. So that is a question that was asked in, I think it was Jason Botterill's conversation with Chuck and Buck in the morning on KJR, which is on my radio station. And they specifically asked kind of that same question, and it was, shall I say, very, very quickly sidestepped. So I don't know what they feel about that situation. I know that Jessica Campbell was in charge of the power play last year, and the power play was one of the things that severely underperformed. I don't know if that means there's going to be a change of role for her. I don't know if that means that she's going to be off the staff in general. They haven't even officially announced Lane Lambert yet, even though it's been over a week since it was rumored that he was hired. So I think they're waiting for the OTAs and stuff to die down with the news cycle, all that stuff. You know how all that works. But there are some questions on what this staff is going to look like, kind of how they're going to go about things that's different from the previous head coach. And I do think that the local ties to Mitch Love, a lot of people thought that would be the guy. Yes. In terms of, and especially considering what he's done on the Washington coaching staff in the past couple of years. But I guess they want a separate direction, and you never know, what goes into those conversations. But I hope it works out. That's all.
Well, so really quick before we move on to the Sounders.
Yeah.
Big overarching question. They have their head coach. Are you more optimistic or pessimistic heading into next season, with the caveat that there is still the offseason to go?
And health also.
Yes.
I still believe in this roster. I believe that these players are better than what they showed last year. I believe that this is a playoff team, at least on paper. You never can expect your captain and one of your top scorers to be out for 3 months of the season. So, or 2 months, I should say. He was not the full 3 months. But I still believe if this coach can kind of marry the two defensive kind of solidity that Dave Hackstall brought with the development of younger players that Dan Bylsma brought, that you can get at least a playoff team going into this year, and I think they need it. They really, really need it, and I know for a fact that they're going to be aggressive in making sure that happens.
Yeah, well, all eyes are going to be on the Seattle Kraken this offseason, what they're going to do with all the cap space that they have with free agency. They've shown they've been aggressive in the past. A couple of 7-year contracts that you mentioned, Chandler Stevenson and Brandon Montour last offseason. Hopefully they are aggressive this offseason and make some additions to this roster. All right.
Quickly, I'm sorry, Anders. Do you bring back Caco?
Oh, absolutely. Not even a question. He was
impressive.
He was one of your best players. I think the biggest
now,
vote.
He's a restricted free agent, so
he
you're
is.
going to have to,
You'll have to work some things out. The biggest vote of confidence that he gives is the fact that Matty Beniers was so much better when he was on the ice with him. So if your first draft pick as a franchise is a better player because of this player, you need to re-sign him. And I think it's just a matter of time before it happens. I have almost no issue thinking that it's not going to happen. So.
Well, let's move on to the Sounders. Not only do they have Club World Cup coming up, but they're also in the news for some other things. The players protesting their piece of the pie within the Club World Cup, earnings that the teams in the tournament are going to be making. For a little bit of background, and then Anders, I'll toss it to you as the expert in this, who wrote about it for EmeraldCitySpectrum.com today. Go check it out. The players from MLS teams are only allowed to earn a maximum of $1 billion among all the players on each individual team, according to the CBA that was signed and agreed to in 2021 before this tournament was even a concept.
1 million?
1 million.
1 million per the all players on a singular team for them to split, which I think Aaron was saying would be a little under $40,000 per player.
Yeah.
So the players are upset, and I think it's every team gets $10 million, right? So
around that,
they're missing out on a significant amount of money because of this outdated CBA clause. The players, sorry if you're listening on audio, but the Sounders players on Sunday protested wearing these shirts that said Club World Cash Grab on them pregame. Every single one of them wore them, and then they spoke about it after the game and voiced their frustration about what was going on. Anders, what insights do you have? What do you make of all this? What can you add?
Yeah, so a little bit of context. You mentioned the shirts and the warm up ahead of time. I think that the Mariners owner, Adrian Hanauer, or one of the main voices of the owner. Yeah, sorry, not Mariners. Sounders owner. Thank you. Was very taken back by this. Didn't really know what was going on. The players apparently.
So this is a player-driven protest.
Absolutely, and the thing is, with the current CBA, collective bargaining agreement between the MLSPA and the MLS, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago where they negotiated that. Any non-league related tournament that you're playing in, whether that's CONCACAF Champions League, whether that's the U.S. Open Cup, all these things that aren't just the MLS play, the players can only get a maximum of 50% of the bonus money, and then that's actually capped at $1 million total for the entire tournament. So basically, with around a $10 million payout, that's a 10% of the money that the Sounders are receiving from this tournament, big tournament that they're playing in on a global stage with all the best teams in the world. And again, more money than they've received in anything non-MLS in their history. A 10% going to the players is an extremely low amount.
Embarrassing amount.
Yeah, it is. And to be honest, it's a murky situation because it's not like the Sounders can just say, oh, okay, we'll give you more because that's fair. Because that's in violation of the collective bargaining agreement. Right. It sets a precedent for the rest of MLS that they don't want to set, that they can break these agreements that have been collectively bargained for. But it's not like unfortunately, it seems like the players don't really have a ton of ground to stand on because it's legally written in this CBA. The only thing that they're saying is different about it is that you mentioned in introducing it that this iteration of the FIFA Club World Cup was not a thing back when this CBA was originally announced. So they There's no language that specifies like the FIFA Club World Cup, and they believe they have legal grounds to renegotiate at least for this specific tournament, and that's what the players have been trying to do for a long time, but they have heard nothing from the MLS or the Sounders for that matter regarding it. So I don't know what's going to end up happening. The players are not happy about it right now. And just a little side note, it depends on what level or what your contract is at this point in time, but I just took the median player, which I think is Danny Masovsky on the Sounders, makes about $400,000 a year. If you divide that up, he would make less money for playing a Club World Cup game than he would just a regular MLS game.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just not a fair pay structure. I just don't know how it gets changed, unfortunately.
Well, and then Sounder at Heart reporting yesterday that Sounders owner Adrian Hanauer post game went down to the players and sort of chewed them out for the protest. That is not the best look for the Sounders organization.
Yeah.
What looking into that, what did you make of that whole situation?
Well, you mentioning that now is the first that I've heard of it. I've been busy with other stuff,
right.
But I appreciate you bringing that up to me because that surprises me. The Sounders have been the forefront of, I think, some important and incredible social change in all aspects of surrounding this team, whether it's their alliance members, whether it's the club in general being as inclusive as any any Seattle sports team. But that surprises me that he reacted that way because I don't know how you can look at the current pay structure and think that these players that's what they deserve. And not to mention, you're the only MLS team that a lot of fans believe is the only team that has been awarded this spot in the Club World Cup based on merit.
Right.
Because the MLS commissioner just basically gave it to Inter Miami because he wanted Messi to be there.
Right.
He basically kind of gave it to LAFC, saying, "Hey, you'll play against this Mexican team
at home."
At home,
right.
Where you're obviously the better team. Mexican team's coming off a game 3 days earlier. Basically just wanted to give it to LAFC and Inter Miami just for whatever. But the Sounders got there because they won CONCACAF Champions League in 2022. So they got there by winning the tournament that no other MLS team has ever won. And now their kind of reward for that is to kind of get screwed over by this.
And playing all these extra matches in the middle of their season.
Exactly.
Right, and you talk about those extra matches, and that's the rub right there. Not only is it the Club World Cup, it's packing 2 games into a week and packing all these games into a short schedule leading up to the World Cup. And also you mentioned Inter Miami and LAFC, and they're rumored to be wearing the T-shirts also. Could you imagine the impact if a Giroud wore the T-shirt?
Or Messi.
Or Messi.
Yeah.
So will that change anything? I don't know, because this was collective bargain.
Yeah.
And, if the players signed it, hey, I understand what they're saying. I do think they have an argument, being that the Club World Cup wasn't in existence when they signed that deal. But the players have nobody to blame but themselves. And it's sad to say, because I think they deserve more.
I totally agree with you. It's unfortunate because it's just a situation that this put themselves in. Now, I think the right thing to do from all sides is to just at least negotiate another, an amendment to the CBA based off of this unprecedented competition that you did not know was in existence. Because it sucks. We should be celebrating all the best teams in the world coming to Seattle and coming to America, playing it and kind of matching up MLS play against all the best teams in the world. But we're talking about this instead. It's an immense distraction that doesn't need to be there. And unfortunately, this isn't new for FIFA because they've had a bunch of these things happen in the past. But I actually don't think FIFA has much to do with this. This is an MLS issue.
And let me mention, I got to pay some bills, Ethan. Right here on Fox. Right here on Fox. Make sure you're watching. Right here on Fox.
Watch the drama unfold.
Right here, right now. The big point of this tournament and FIFA adding this ginormous pot was to make sure that these international teams actually cared about this tournament and were incentivized these managers to play their best players and show the world here in America their best product. And then their own players are not getting paid fairly. It's all backwards. It all sucks. We're opening this conversation with Club World Cup less than 2 weeks away. We're talking about this. And Christian Roldan said it post-game, it is a distraction for the players. It's impossible for it not to be. So hopefully it's resolved in a timely manner, and everybody gets sort of what's best for everyone, really. But Anders, I did want to ask you about this Sounders team heading into Club World Cup. Yeah. Big win against San Diego FC at home. Yep. Unfortunately, the loss over the weekend to Minnesota.
Possibly distraction.
Possibly distracted. And you're in the middle of a stretch where you're playing the top 3 teams in the Western Conference consecutively, followed by the champions of South America, followed by the Champions League winners, followed by Atletico Madrid, one of the best teams in La Liga. I mean, this stretch is absolutely crazy when you think about it big picture-wise. With the Sounders sit in 5th place in the West, where are they right now as they head into Club World Cup?
So it's funny you mentioned the win against San Diego, because if you look at their previous game against San Diego, I forget which day it was. It was sometime
beginning of April.
Or April, okay. After that 3-0 drubbing, where the Sounders did not look like the Sounders that we know and love, they've been on this run where I think it's 7 of 8 undefeated or something like that. Take away Sunday's game, but that's more looked like the team that I expected. You make off-season acquisitions like Jesus Ferreira, Paul Oriello, who unfortunately has gone down for, we all believe, is going to be the rest of the year with an ACL tear. Jordan Morris has been in and out of injury. He, unfortunately has not been a big part of the team at this point. Pedro de la Vega started the season on the injured list and then has just made his way back. I still believe there's something to be offered there from the Argentine.
Yes.
He has looked a lot better in integrating himself into the team. He's starting to create chances. You could say the same about Jesus Ferreira as well. I love what I've seen from Danny Musovski, kind of originally being like a backup striker guy and then coming in and just scoring in 6 straight games. It's something we've never seen, or have only seen, 3 times before that. I think they're starting to hum, and it sucks that the Club World Cup thing and what we're talking about has seemed to have halted that a little bit, because we all know how much this team thrives on chemistry, their connection with the fans, their connection with their coach. It's not like a one-player team that a lot of MLS teams can sometimes be. It's a team that thrives on working with each other, rowing the right direction, so to speak. And they were really getting to that point. I think it was really starting to hit their stride. Jordan Morris is starting to come back. Looks like he'll be back for the Club World Cup. But I don't know how much this distraction is going to be an impact, because I hope they get it resolved and everything's just like, okay, that was just kind of blip in the radar sort of thing. But if they, don't perform well in Vancouver, don't perform well against Botafogo, you're going up. You're going up against 2 of the best teams in the world right after that. PSG literally won the Champions League 5-0.
Against Inter Milan, one of the best teams in Italy.
So, I mean, they're the best team in the world. You can't say any other way. And the Sounders are going to go against their top team. So, it's a very trying part of the season to really, really kind of bring them back onto schedule. I still think MLS-wise they're in good shape. We'll see how the Club World Cup affects them, though.
I worry about their health. It seems like we've been losing a player like almost every match. And and with the stress of the Club World Cup and the condensed schedule, I'm worried about the health of the Sounders and some of the players going down. Now, I would like to see more of Kent and Georgie. Those are my 2 guys right there, along with Rothrock. So you get those 3 in the game, I think they have been the best players all season, if you ask me. Now, when Kent finally got the time, he showed that pedigree. I want to see more of him with Pedro up front. I would love to see those 4 players play a lot more.
Yeah, it's just I totally agree with you on injuries. I actually forgot about the center back situation, because you have Yamar has gone out injured, probably out for another 2 weeks at least. Jackson Reagan just came back for the game against Minnesota for his first game in over a month. You have an 18-year-old, Kim Ki-hee is going to be out for a long period of time. You have an 18-year-old Stuart Hawkins coming in and possibly might be your starting center back going against PSG after they win 5-0 in the Champions League final.
We can do it.
Oh, God, yeah. But I mean,
Stuart. Good. Godspeed.
Yeah, good luck, man. Hey, you're a local kid. Show Seattle some love.
Yeah.
Prove us right. But no, what you were saying about the wingers, I agree with you. That's been another issue, though, is the fact that they have a Paul Rothrock, a Ryan Kent, Georgie Manungu, and Pedro de la Vega. Those are 4 guys that play 2 different positions. So you have to bench 2 of those guys each game. They can't play, like, they're not really strikers. They can't play in the center midfield, especially with Obed Vargas playing how he is now. You know, Albert Rusnak's your 10. He's going to always be that guy. So it's good to have competition where you have these guys pushing each other to different parts of their game, but sometimes you have to leave out some really good players.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on Ryan Kent, you know, I agree. He's made an incredible impact. And what was the 3 assists in 2 games, whatever, that he had over a really nice spell. I think it was the San Diego game that I was watching, and it seemed like it seems like they're telling him to be aggressive, go at guys one-on-one.
Yeah.
San Diego starts bringing over, and they've got 2 dudes on him every single time, and he's still trying to dribble him. I mean, you know, at one this is what I want to see. You know, the league is sort of starting to adjust to Ryan Kent. Ryan Kent needs to adjust back. If there's 2 guys coming to him, that's 1 less defender that's over by somebody else. He's got to recycle the ball and sort of, you know, I don't know if you agree with me here, Anders, but have some awareness to where they're making sure he's not an issue. That means that he can create in other ways, right?
Well, let me butt in right there because I see it the other way. I see Ryan Kent's teammates not being on his level. I see him creating opportunities, and they're not in that space. They're not on his level. They're not to his pedigree. They have to catch up with him, and then I think those holes will open up, especially when 2 players are on him. But the teammates, it takes time, I guess, with the chemistry with him just joining the team a couple months ago. But I think they need to play up to his level and him not trying to make plays for them.
And I'm going to marry your 2 guys' way of thinking because I think it can be both things. He needs to adjust, but his teammates also need to adjust because he's a different player than the Sounders have really had in a long time, especially not just in terms of quality, in terms of just style of play. He's a much more direct guy who likes to just take people down the line, put crosses in. We haven't seen that since.
And I like that.
Yeah, it's very direct, right? It's like Brad Smith-esque from the 2019 team, right? So you have, and we mentioned what this team thrives on offensively is creating chances for each other, lots of tiki-taka, short passes, combinations, and I think the rest of the guys are kind of in that sort of mentality, and then you have Ryan Kent who's just, boom, I'm going to go take people on, especially even when there's like 2 or 3 guys on me. Right. So if there's a little bit of adjustment, maybe you can like make some runs to give him some space where he can do that, to allow him to do that, but then also on his part, you know, when it's not there, recycle the ball around as you were saying.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, D-Jack, when that second defender comes over, other guys supplementing the run and expecting that a little bit more, but it's when Ryan Kent sees 2 dudes, okay, they told me to be aggressive, I'm going to go and then I'm going to lose the ball because I'm taking on a 2-on-1, and even though they're MLS defenders versus Ryan Kent, I mean, they're still solid players. So, no, you're right, but marrying the 2 with, and there's got to be some more game planning. And I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm some tactics wizard and know what Brian Schwetzer's doing.
Smetcher.
No, don't even say that. Don't even say that. But I mean, you know, I'm sure they're working through this, but you know, working it out to where seeing that when you try to get Ryan Kent in a one-on-one, they're gonna bring 2 defenders over. If that's how you're defending that, you also need a game plan for that. So seeing that evolution from the Sounders offense and not just being like, here, Ryan Kent, go create for us. Because that's not going to work over an entire season, especially not in the Club World Cup. No. When there's, you know, much greater competition that you're going against.
Totally agree.
That's the Sounders. Let's go over to some Fair or Foul. It's one of our favorite games, our weeknight sports show, Washington Sports Wrap. Every single night at 7:30 on Fox 13. You should go check it out. We play a game of Fair or Foul. Dante's got the statements today, Anders. He's gonna read a statement. You're gonna say whether you agree or disagree by saying fair or foul.
Okay.
We'll all 3 probably be giving our takes. So give it to you, Dante.
We talked about the Kraken already, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but is it time to you know, with Shane Wright and Beniers over the past few years, I would say they're good players, but they're not those guys. Fair or foul, it's time for a rebuild.
Rebuild. See, if you had just said that first statement, they're good players, but they're not the guys, I would have said fair. But in terms of rebuild, I believe this team all around is good enough. You just need like 1 or 2 superstars. So I don't think a rebuild is necessary.
Now, when the Kraken rolled out this team, they made a big deal about how they wasn't going to build like Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, they did want to be like Vegas. Yeah. And they built it around the young draft picks and the players. Yeah. And I mean, did they pick the right players?
I think so. You can always go back, and I think it's still pretty early to tell if you look at even Matty Beniers' draft class, I think that was 21. There are a couple players in there that have been real high impact players that they were at later picks that were available at the same time. You look at someone like a Dylan Gunther, maybe. That's kind of the main one I think of, who's just a little more of a goal scorer. But I think with what the Kraken, and you could tell with their coaching hire that they want to build from the back front. They got their number one goaltender. I think their D-core is one of the best in all of NHL.
It's really good.
I don't think it has any holes in it whatsoever. You just need a couple guys that put the puck in the net. And I know it's the hardest thing to find, but in terms of choosing the right way and building your team, I think they did the right way. Yes.
I'm gonna jump in here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say foul. They do not need a rebuild. I completely agree. I'm also gonna say foul too. They're not those guys. I'm not gonna say that they are those guys, but I think it is way too early to have put that label onto Matty Beniers and Shane Wright. I mean, Anders, you would know better than me, but there are so many guys that are late bloomers in this league.
True.
Matty Beniers is still contributing at the NHL level. Shane Wright had 19 goals this year?
Yeah.
Or something like that. So, I mean, he contributed this year. This is his first full season in the NHL. You have a new coaching staff coming in that hopefully is going to help both those guys. But, I think it is too early with these two young bucks to say that they're not those guys and to even consider rebuilding, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we're getting to the point. You say there's a lot of late bloomers. There's also a lot of players who just instantly pick it up and are really
right.
Really good.
He was what, 2? Beniers?
Yeah, number 2
overall.
overall.
Number 2 pick?
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, but let's move on.
That's a fair point.
Yeah,
let's move on. Fair
Yeah.
foul. Dave Hextall should still be the Kraken's coach.
Foul. I think like we talked about it earlier, but he wasn't very good at developing his younger players, which is the core of this team. I think his brand of hockey, and we'll find out if it's the similar brand as Lane Lambert. I think there's some similarities, maybe not the exact same, but his brand of hockey was really not entertaining, very boring. I guess his brand of
the playoffs was boring, Anders.
1 year in 3 years, one playoffs in 3 years is good enough for you?
Hextall?
Yeah.
I thought he was here too.
He's a 3.
3, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, one in 3 years is better than none in with however many years. Right?
Yeah.
So one is better than none in my book. But
yeah, I just think if you're gonna move forward and you're gonna be the way you're building this team, as you mentioned earlier, I feel like they more lucked into that playoff run. They got a lot of career years from a lot of guys, and you can't rely on that every single year. I think they're going to go back to a more traditional 4-line thing. And the biggest thing for them when they had that team was all 4 lines were scoring, and they were just kind of rolling them, all playing equal time. And if you look at the rest of the NHL, that's not how that happens. Like your 4th line plays maybe 10 minutes at most. Right. But they're guys that bring something different to the table, like go hit a guy hard, get some momentum shifting going when your stars are getting beat up. You got to just go throw some guy into the boards and bring a different mentality to the team. And I think that is a main thing that I think was missing from those Hextall teams and from the Bylsma team, to be honest. And I think that's something that Lane Lambert will bring.
All right. Did you?
Well, and it seems like the players were not responding well to Hextall, and there was some stuff going on under the hood to where it wasn't really conducive for Ron Francis to bring Hextall back. So from that perspective, I don't think you can justify bringing him back if there were players and parts of your core that had a problem with the head coach.
Okay, all right, let's move on. We're going to move on to those Mariners. And Babe Ruth, Cal Raleigh.
Yeah, I like it.
Fair or foul, Cal Raleigh is the best catcher in Mariners history already.
Fair. 100% true. He already, if you're going to go by WAR, he already has surpassed Dan Wilson for the most WAR of any Seattle catcher of all time. And just he already has the moment, the game-winning home run to send him to the playoffs in 22. Like he signed the big contract. It's just already he's the best catcher.
It's a no-brainer.
No-brainer for me.
What about you, Ethan?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't look up the WAR, but I sort of figured it would be close. It's Cal Raleigh. I mean, the only other catcher that I can think of is Mike Zunino.
Over Dan Wilson, really?
Well, no, just in the conversation of not over Dan Wilson, absolutely, but I'm just trying to think of like other names.
That's about it.
That played that position. Kenji Jojima, come on, Miguel Olivo. I love me some Miguel
catcher
Olivo.
That couldn't catch.
Part of the job description there for that one. Yeah. But I say fair.
Let's move on. All right, we're going to stick with the Mariners.
Okay.
I mean, if they get back to full health.
Yep.
fair or foul, it's ALCS or bust. They need to at least make it to the championship series.
That's a really hard one.
That's a good question.
It's a very hard one because I think if they went to ALDS and lost, like basically like they did in 22, it wouldn't necessarily feel like a failure of a season.
Now, I said the caveat of being fully healthy.
Yeah.
That means the pitching staff and everything is in place now.
But I do think it's fair to have, especially if this team makes the playoffs, to have some pretty high expectations for them. So I think that's fair, to be honest. I think it's fair. And I have a weird take. I think it's more likely that if the Mariners make the playoffs, that they win the World Series, than them making the playoffs.
Yes.
So
yes, I agree.
it's
with
weird.
I would agree with that.
It's weird. Well, I mean, the past couple of years where they haven't made the playoffs, they missed it by a game.
Yeah.
It's like if last year's team made the playoffs, you could have easily seen them winning the World Series. I mean, I know the Dodgers were making the World Series just because of their pitching staff and the things that they're good at play well in October. So I completely agree with that. Is it ALCS or bust? I mean, so if their road to the playoffs is winning the division, I don't know if they would make it in as a wild card in the weaker AL West. But so if we're saying they win the division, that would be winning the division and then winning a playoff series, or else it's a bust. I think if they win the division and they get the monkey off their back with the Houston Astros, I think that's a win.
Yeah.
When I think of bust, I think of, the Mariners selling the farm to compete this year and next year, or mostly like this year. This franchise is set up to compete for the next decade.
Yeah.
With Cal Raleigh being locked up, with Julio being locked up, I think it's a pretty surefire bet they're going to lock up Logan Gilbert because of Cal Raleigh. Yeah. Who knows about George Kirby? But I mean, and then you've got the best farm system in baseball.
Yeah.
So, if they don't, is it division or bust? Yes, I would say absolutely without a shadow of a doubt. I don't think the wild card is good enough. Go win the division this year. Go win the division.
I agree.
If they don't make it to the ALCS, I just can't say.
How about both? Win the division and go to the ALCS.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind.
Now, Anders, let me tell you, since the first episode, I laid down the gauntlet.
Okay. All right.
Now, what Ethan just said, I mean, I just hurt inside.
We disagree a lot.
I do not want to compete, Anders. I want championships.
Yeah.
And that's what I expect out of this organization with the pitching staff, with the young players they have in place. This should be a championship team with championship expectations, especially if they're fully healthy. I want championships. I don't want to compete. Give me a championship this year. You can lose for the next 9 years. Yep. But we need that championship here in Seattle from this team. And I asked Matt Smith this last week, and this is my last question for you. World Series with the Mariners or Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks? What do you want to see?
It's got to be World Series. I've already seen a Super Bowl, so I'm a little biased. I'm also a little biased because the Mariners are the first team I ever loved as a little kid. I have a picture of me going to the game when I was 4 years old.
I'm the same way, yeah.
So, I mean, God, the amount of emotion that would have come out of me if the Mariners ended up winning the World Series. Yes. That's why I do agree with you that there needs to be some urgency about this year right now.
Thank you.
But the notion that you can only have one or the other is false.
Absurd.
You can totally be a team that competes for 10 years, but also goes all in for 1 year. Because you have the best farm system in baseball, you can trade a Harry Ford and be fine. You already have a catcher. I think he's playing pretty well. And go get a dude. Go get a couple dudes to supplement this team, have some urgency. And I understand that. You don't have to, just because you're going for it 1 year doesn't mean you're selling off the rest of the 9 years, right? So there's a way to go about it. Now, do I want to do what, what's a good example of a team that just totally went all in and lost?
The Padres?
Yeah, they're still a good team though. Right. They went all in and they're still fine. There was a lot of financial commitment there, and then they had to draw back. Yeah, they did. But the Marlins. Marlins won 2 World Series in 3 years, and they've been irrelevant since.
But they have those 2 World Series.
It's true.
I think that's the risk. That's the risk, though, of if you go all in and it doesn't work and you don't get that World Series. Now, not only are you not competing for the next 10 years, but you also don't have that World Series ring. So it's like you missed your chance, and now you don't get another chance.
Scared money don't make no money.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
You can't be scared in this business. You have to go for it if you're the Mariners. You've never even sniffed the World Series. You've never been there. at all. The only MLB team to never make the World Series. And we're talking about competing? No, it's championship time. It's championship of bus right here on the sidelines, baby. Let's go.
I love it.
Well, and you can go, like you said, Anders, trade a Harry Ford and still being able to compete for the years ahead and focus on this year. So absolutely. Let's move on. This is our last segment before we get out of here. Top 5 dead or alive.
Top 5 dead or alive.
Damn. Are there any dead ones? Seriously, I'm asking.
We're open for this one. So this year, this week, we got an iteration. Top 5 Seattle sports athletes of all time. Your Mount Rushmore plus one. But ranked.
All right.
All right. So
you don't have to rank it 1 through 5.
I did.
You got to pick and choose.
Okay.
Here,
I have 5.
Anders, we'll give you some time.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll go first.
Go first.
So my honorable mentions, I didn't have Cal Raleigh on here at first, but we were talking about him. I'm going to put Cal Raleigh in my honorable mentions.
Okay.
Because of the moment, the home run, and I mean, he's the best catcher in Mariners history.
Yep.
We sort of established that on the podcast. So he makes my honorable mentions. I'm going to go Nico Ladero.
Oh,
I had to have
mine.
Oh, yeah, okay, there we go. I had to have a sounder on the list and just hit him getting here mid-season, completely turning around one of the worst teams in MLS to going forward, making the playoffs, winning MLS Cup, his contributions in the Champions Cup as well. You'll talk about
2
it.
MLS Cups.
Yes, yep. Gary Payton, the glove. Love Gary Payton.
You gonna name everybody?
No,
leave something for somebody else.
there's
How many honorable mentions?
So is this a concurrent top 5, or we're each giving our lists?
We're each giving our list.
Okay.
We're each giving our
just
list.
gave top 5
And 2
honorable
coaches.
mentions.
Seattle Sports. It's impossible.
It is
to
very
do.
hard.
No, it's
It's
not.
And two
it's
coaches.
not.
2 coaches. Pete Carroll, Brian Schmetzer make my
All
honorable
right.
mentions.
I'm just-
I'll go quick. Number
Okay.
1 for me, Ken Griffey Jr.
Yes.
The kid.
That's same
Number
here.
2. Number 2, Sue Bird.
Same
21-year career, all in Seattle, 4 chips, 8-time all WNBA. She's number 2. Number 3, I got Ichiro. Number 4, Marshawn Lynch. Number 5, Edgar Martinez.
Okay.
That is my top 5
I like
list.
it.
Yeah.
I like
Thank you very
it.
much.
I got mine if you guys want to go.
Yeah, Anders.
Junior Sue Bird 1 and 2 with me as well. Marshawn Lynch is 3. I got Edgar 4, and then Nico Ladero 5.
Nice.
You have Marshawn Lynch on the Seattle Mount Rushmore.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Won a championship.
I got him at number 4.
Yeah.
The Beastquake.
All right.
I mean, and then Beastquake 2.0. He's got 2
he
Beastquakes.
wasn't even the best Seattle running back. I think Sean Alexander has something to say about that.
Yeah, sure.
But
Won
the
a Super
championship.
Bowl. Won a Super Bowl.
Okay.
Is it him or Russell Wilson? I go Marshawn Lynch. You can't put the entire.
One has an MVP, the only MVP in Seattle history.
No, I think Sean Alexander
I'm just
does
saying.
get, I don't want to say overhated, but he gets overlooked a
Yes,
lot
yeah.
because of what Beastquake did. But just the lore behind him, I'm just here so I won't get fined,
He's just an icon.
the cult hero,
Beacon Plumbing.
everything. Yeah, so good, man. So yeah, just the aura around him.
That was really good. Oh man.
Hey, wait.
Let me move on. Let's move on to my top 5 dead or alive. Here we go. All right, honorable mention. I got Cortez Kennedy, defensive MVP.
Yeah.
Okay. We got GP, Gary Payton. I would love to have Sean Kemp with him because that was kind of a 1-2 right there. All right, we're going to start with 5. Richard Sherman, the face of the LOB, one of the greatest defenses in NFL history. I had to put him as a representative. Some people would say Bobby Wagner. No, he didn't make the impact that Richard Sherman made. Richard Sherman was that mouthpiece. All right, I have LOB for him. 4, Bill Russell. Never played for a Seattle team, but we know he's from Mercer Island. What, 11, 12
That's
rings?
a crazy interpretation of the top.
Hey, he's from Seattle. He's from Mercer Island.
I actually didn't know that.
We got somebody here at the podcast from Mercer Island, so she should know, right? All right, here we go. I got somebody on my name. All right, here we go. 3, Sue Bird, GOAT.
Yeah.
I mean, did I say more?
There's an argument she's number 1.
All right, here we go. 2, Russell Wilson. He gets a lot of hate because of the way he left.
Deservedly
But
so.
Danger Russ left us with so many moments. I mean, I think just as many moments. You put Marshawn Lynch here for moments. He had more moments than Russ? Than Danger Russ? I think not. Danger Russ was that guy. He's number 2 in the Mount Rushmore. And number 1, it's a consensus, it's Ken Griffey Jr. It's not even close, the kid. And now, funny story, I saw Ken Griffey Jr. gassing up his Ferrari on his way to Florida after he left the team the second time. I saw him right here on Broad Street at the 76 gas station. I gave him the head nod. He gave me the head nod. He was in his car. He drove all the way to Florida. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And that's my top 5, dead or alive, Mount Rushmore. Plus one.
There we go. Let us know if you agree, disagree.
Yep.
Bill Russell, that is a crazy poll right there. That is a crazy poll.
I want champions.
He's not a Seattle sports guy.
He was
from
born.
here.
He's
I will
from
say-
here.
I will
Sporting
say-
accomplishments
He was born
here.
here and he died here.
Well, if we're doing
Rest in
born here,
peace.
that's a totally different.
Rest
I
in
will.
peace.
I will say I threw out Cars for best sports movies, so I feel like there's some.
Hey, it's a little
Lightning
wiggle.
McQueen. Lightning McQueen, one of the greatest racers of all time. I mean, 4 straight Piston Cups. Come on, you can't beat that.
All right, moving on.
That's gonna do it for this edition of On the Sideline. Anders, thank you so much for coming
Appreciate
in.
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday!
birthday.
Thanks, brother.
Happy birthday!
Really
So happy
appreciate
to
you
have
guys,
you
yeah.
on your special day. And be sure to check out his work. He's producing the Ian Furness Show, 93.3 KJR FM Sports Radio. Check him out there, EmeraldCitySpectrum.com. All things Sounders, and then after every single Mariners game, the Locked On Mariners postcast.
Yes,
so be
sir.
sure to check out his
Leave
work.
the job for somebody else, man.
Yeah, I know. You got leave some stuff. Anyway, for Anders, for D-Jack, I'm Ethan. We'll see you next time on the Sidelines. Let's go!
On the Sidelines is available wherever you get your podcast.